You know that feeling when you're just totally failing to connect with the people around you? Back in 1996, the author of our source material, Ahmet Akca, hit a massive wall in his sales career. He literally couldn't persuade his clients. In fact, he admits his clients were the ones persuading him. So let's dive into this explainer and see how his somewhat desperate search to understand human behavior led him away from standard sales tactics and straight into the deep end of human psychology, body language, and eventually the ancient science of face reading, known as Ilmissima.
Welcome to today's explainer. We're going on a seriously fascinating journey today, starting way out with the broad depths of human psychology and zooming all the way into the exact mathematical geometry of our faces. Trust me, you are never going to look at a conversation, or a mirror for that matter, the same way again. Since we're looking at human beings as complete biological, sociological, and psychological wholes, here is our roadmap from the macro to the micro. First, the human puzzle. Then, perception and the mind. Next, macro body language, followed by micro expressions revealed, and finally, the science of face reading. Let's get into it. Part 1. The human puzzle. Understanding the whole. Okay, we really have to start with the big picture before we start picking apart the pieces. I mean, we can't just jump into analyzing a nose or an eyebrow without understanding the incredibly complex engine running behind it. That brings us to our hidden minds. You probably think you're in complete conscious control of your daily interactions, right? Well, actually, a staggering 93 to 97% of our actions are driven entirely by the subconscious mind. We are basically reacting to the world on autopilot, driven by all these hidden biological and psychological programs. To really understand that autopilot, we have to look at the 3 layers of the subconscious. It's like this constant, invisible balancing act inside your head. You've got the id, which is our primitive, pleasure-seeking drive that we inherited from our ancestors. Then you've got the superego, representing our social morality and all the rules of our environment. And caught right smack in the middle is the ego, frantically trying to balance our primitive desires with social harmony. When these 3 are out of whack, our bodies instantly reflect it.
Now this brings us to Abraham Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs, which brilliantly illustrates how our internal drives are structured. At the very bottom, we have basic physiological needs, food, sleep. Once those are met, we look for safety. Then love and belonging, followed by esteem and success. But what's absolutely crucial here is that humans don't just stop there. We are driven by the ultimate need at the very top of that pyramid to actualize our true potential. Literally, every single person you meet is somewhere on this pyramid, trying to fulfill a need. Depending on how those needs are met throughout our lives, we generally fall into 2 broad categories based on our actions. First, we have proactive people. These folks are externally focused and driven by happiness, which is basically the pursuit of the new. Then we have reactive people, who are internally focused, highly observant, and driven by peace, which is the desire to protect what already exists. Knowing which category someone falls into gives you a massive advantage when you're trying to read their physical cues.
Moving on to Part 2, Perception and the Mind, How We See the World. So let's see how all this psychology builds into the way we actively view the world around us. Because our brains don't just objectively record reality, they build perceptions using meanings and stereotypes. To really grasp how totally flexible human perception is, just think about this brilliant mountain fish anecdote. There was this starving tribe in the Americas whose religious beliefs absolutely forbade them from eating anything but fish. When the rivers ran dry, they were literally dying of hunger, completely ignoring all the deer running through the forest right in front of them. Finally, a clever elder took a deer, threw it into the river, and shouted to the tribe, "Look, this swims too. This is a fish." By simply renaming the deer a mountain fish, he changed the meaning. The meaning changed the perception, and the entire tribe was saved. Mind-blowing, right?
We see this exact same power of meaning across different cultures too. For example, if an American gets their photo taken for a driver's license, they're naturally going to smile because in their culture, a smile projects trust and kindness. But if you ask a Japanese person to smile for an official ID, they might politely refuse and remain completely solemn. Why? Because to them, getting a license is a serious achievement, and smiling would kind of mock that seriousness. The physical action is exactly the same, but the perception is completely different.
Section 3. Macro Body Language. The Body Speaks.
All right, shifting slightly from internal psychology to macro body language. And hey, take a quick second to check your own posture right now as you're listening to this explainer. Are your arms crossed? Are your shoulders slumped? Your body language is literally the first language you ever learned, way before you could even speak. So if you want to maintain positive subconscious signaling to both yourself and others, you've got to avoid the 4 cardinal sins of body language. First, don't use the fetal position. It screams extreme insecurity. Second, don't touch yourself for comfort. We do this to subconsciously replace the comforting touch of our parents from childhood. Third, don't hide your vital organs, which projects fear. And fourth, whatever you do, don't shrink your shadow. Spread out and make yourself take up space.
When you slump your shoulders and drop your head like this, it isn't just a symptom of feeling down. Your body and mind are locked in this synchronized loop. Taking a defensive slumped posture literally tells your brain that you are unsafe and stressed out, which actually triggers an even worse psychological state. It's a vicious cycle. If you want to feel confident, you have to physically open up.
Part 4. Micro-expressions revealed. The hidden truth.
Now we're zooming in even closer, moving from macro body language to those fleeting micro-expressions that reveal our true, unfiltered feelings. You can fake a smile, but you absolutely cannot fake a micro-expression. The total pioneer in this field is psychologist Paul Ekman. His work actually inspired that hit TV show Lie to Me. Ekman proved that regardless of your culture, every human on Earth shares 7 universal micro-expressions: happiness, surprise, anger, fear, disgust, sadness, and contempt. These flash across the face in just 1/10 of a second, completely revealing our true emotions before our conscious mind even has a chance to hide them.
And get this, it's not just the face. Our bodies also betray our suppressed emotions, what's known in Turkish as bastırılmış emotions, through these tiny micro-movements. For instance, a microfixation, where a hand rests completely still on the face, shows intense listening. Microstroking reveals a sort of self-soothing comfort, but micro-itching, that is a massive red flag. People tend to suddenly itch when they're feeling discomfort, or actively trying to mask their hidden thoughts. Keep an eye out for that one.
And finally, Section 5, the science of face reading, Ilmissima. We have finally reached the specific mathematical geometry of the human face. The ancient science of Ilmissima, which was actually studied by historical heavyweights like Ibn Sina and Kant, who called it the science of observing the inner world, divides the face horizontally into 3 critical zones. Zone A goes from the hairline down to the eyebrows. Zone B goes from the eyebrows to the bottom of the nose. And Zone C is from the bottom of the nose right down to the chin.
By analyzing the proportions of these specific zones, we can unlock some pretty incredible insights into a person's nature. For example, Zone A reveals their mental capacity. If it's narrow vertically, they're highly creative, but if it's wide, they're highly analytical. Zone B indicates the speed of thought. A narrow B zone means fast, really practical thinking, while a wider B zone shows a slower, much more mature thought process. And finally, Zone C shows their drive. A wide C zone often points to high external management and natural leadership skills.
But we don't just put the face horizontally, we also slice it vertically into the right and left face. Because our brain's hemispheres actually cross over to control opposite sides of the body, the right side of the face connects to the left brain. That means the right face shows our logic, our analytical side, and what Zen traditions call our yang, or masculine energy. On the flip side, the left side of the face connects to the right brain, showcasing our emotions, our creativity, and our yin, or feminine energy. It's like every face is literally a map of these internal forces. The science of face reading even extends to mathematical perfection, relying heavily on the golden ratio, 1.618, to analyze ideal proportions. We're talking about things like the ratio of the length of the face to its width, or the width of the mouth compared to the width of the nose. And here's the crazy part. Without us even realizing it, our subconscious minds are constantly running these complex mathematical calculations the second we meet someone, instantly determining how we feel about them in a split second.
It's incredibly profound to consider the real-world applications of all this. I mean, this isn't just ancient philosophy. Studies, including a super notable one highlighted from The Economist, suggest that a corporate leader's facial structure and skull shape can actually be an accurate indicator of their company's business performance. That is exactly why organizations ranging from the CIA all the way to major corporate HR departments are actively using biometric face reading today. It's a real game changer.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that reading faces isn't just some cheap parlor trick. You can't just look at someone's wide forehead and make a snap judgment about their whole personality. True Ilmissima requires a deep, interconnected understanding of human biology, sociology, and psychology. You really have to observe the macro body language, catch those lightning-fast micro-expressions, and analyze the facial geometry all at once. Like a giant puzzle, the whole reveals the parts.
I'll leave you with this final thought to carry with you today. Every single experience, every hidden desire, and every suppressed emotion leaves a trace on your physical body. So, the next time you look in the mirror, armed with this new knowledge, what will your face secretly tell you about the depths of your own hidden mind? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep observing.